The following is a class on the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 3rd Chapter, text number 24, given by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, recorded on June 22nd, 1972, in Los Angeles.
Translation. Certainly that heart is steel-framed, which in spite of chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place, and tears fill the eyes and hairs stand on end.
So, here is one word, steel frame. Nowadays, the medical science is changing the heart steel frame. So, this modern science is making steel framed heart, but we can understand that formally also there are steel framed heart. Otherwise, how this word comes? Sadasmasanam vidayam batidam. So, just like stone or steel, it does not melt very easily. Similarly, anyone's heart, it does not change after chanting Hare Krishna mantra regularly. Then it is to be understood that it is steel frame, made of stone or iron. Actually, Harinam, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, it is especially meant for cleansing the heart. That all misconception is within our heart, beginning from the wrong identification that I am this body. That is the beginning of all misconception. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Chetadarpanamad. As you go on chanting, gradually the heart will be cleansed and you will be able to understand that you are not this body. That is called Jnana Vairaka. Jnana means to know thoroughly that I am not this body. This is Jnana. And as soon as you know that you are not this body, naturally you become disinterested with anything which has got bodily relation. The Chetadarpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Nidpapanam. Bhava means repetition of birth and death. You become. Bhava means. So you become means you die also. Because this is the word. To become does not mean that you stay forever. That is not possible. You become means you die also. So, but under wrong impression, as soon as I become, I think that this world is very nice. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings that, my dear Lord, when I was in the womb of my mother, at that time, I saw you once became visible. Those who are spiritually advanced, they can see God within the womb of the mother. When the child remains packed up and the consciousness is gained, he feels very uncomfortable. So at that time, one who is pious, spiritually advanced, he prays to God, please rescue me from this bondage. I am too much suffering. At this time, after taking my bath, I shall simply be engaged in Krishna consciousness. Promises. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Janama haila parimaya jale. As soon as birth is taken, the Maya is there, we forget. Immediately, father, mother, other relatives, they take up the child and pets very nice. So in this way, we forget that we were in such a precarious condition, almost suffocating, almost it is suffocating. After coming out from the womb of the mother, if you are packed up again in such airtight bag, within 3 seconds you will die. We live under the protection of the Supreme Lord, otherwise that is not a living condition. Just imagine within the home. So, this we forget, and being taken care of, affectionate father and mother on the lap, we think life is very nice, this life. But this is Maya, this is illusion. Actually, this bhava, to take birth, is very, very unpleasant task. It is blazing fire, bhava mahadava. So, if we can cleanse our heart during this life, this is the opportunity. It is not possible when I take birth as an animal, cats and dogs, that is not possible. But as I have got now this human form of body, we should not be again misled. Chetadarpana marjanam bhavamadam. If we can cleanse our heart, then this blazing fire of repetition of birth and death can be extinguished. But the illusory energy is so strong that we forget our last death time miseries. At the time of death, we suffer very much. So that, just imagine, when we give up our life, how much a difficult position at that time. So we forget birth and death. As soon as there is birth, there is death also. Death means the more you are advancing in age, that means you are dying. You are advancing in death. The child is born. When this child is born, just yesterday, that means he has already died one day. So in this way, death is progressive. As soon as there is birth, the death is immediately, side by side. And one day old means I have died one day. I am 76 years old, but I have already died 76 years. Suppose I live, say, 80 years, 90 years. So I have already died 76 years. So death is sure. They say we are advancing. What is that advancement? Death is sure. You cannot control birth, death, old age. You cannot stop old age. And disease. You can manufacture nice medicine, but you cannot stop disease. So we have become still-hearted, still-framed heart. We do not consider all these things. These are practical. And still we are under the impression that we are advancing in material civilization. So we are advancing in the art of cutting stone and wood, that's all. This is our advance. Just like in your country, within 2 months they can build one wood house. An expert in cutting wood, this is advance. Wood cutter, stone cutter. But we are not meant for cutting wood and stone. We are meant for understanding our spiritual identity. There are many birds, a woodcutter bird. So that is not very expert manifestation of our intelligence. So, this cleansing of heart will be possible by Harinama Dheyi, this chanting of Harinama, 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 Harinama iva kevalam, kalau nasti vanasti vanasti vanasti. Anything, any spiritual process is meant for cleansing the heart. Either you take Karma Yoga, or Jnana Yoga, or Dhyana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. The ultimate goal is that cleansing the heart. At the present moment, I am under misconception, dirty things accumulated on my heart, that I am this body, and therefore I do not try to realize that I am soul, and under bodily concept of life, as the animals, they are also in bodily concept of life. They are busy eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Similarly, human civilization has become like animals. They are interested only in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's all. But that is not our position. It is a chance to get out of the entanglement of birth, death, old age and disease. This is our real business. Cetadarpanamarjana. We are misguided. Our so-called leaders are misleaders. They do not know what is the aim of life. That is the difficulty at the present moment. Not at the present moment, in the material world. This problem is always existing, but due to this Kali age, that problem is more acute. That's all. So, this chanting of Hare Krishna mantra, without offences, 10 kinds of offences, will cleanse the heart, and then we will be liberated. Cetadarpana marjanam bhava mahadavagni, because we will know the path, how we can get out of these clutches of birth and death. There are so many big scientists, philosophers, they don't talk of this important subject matter, how to get out of birth and death. They have no solution. Neither they can think of. But our Krishna consciousness movement is giving us the knowledge that you can get out of these clutches of birth and death, old age and disease. That is our desire. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to go again into the womb of the mother. Nobody wants disease. Nobody wants old age. But the so-called scientists, they have no proposal to get out of this clutch. Here, Srimad Bhagavatam gives you hint that Harinama Devi, by chanting Harinam, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama iva kevalam, you can get out of this. And when Harinam will be perfect, and that symptoms are given here. Netre jalam gatra rohisu harsha. By chanting, when not always, sometimes out of ecstasy, when tears will come down, and there will be shivering on the body, that means you are coming to perfection. This is not to be artificially practiced. When you actually come to the perfectional state, these will automatically appear. So, this verse suggests that if a person is chanting Hare Krishna mantra, but his eyes are not tearful, or there is no ecstatic shivering of the body, then that means he is not coming to the perfection of mind. So if we chant this Hare Krishna mantra without offense, according to observing regulative principles and numerical strength, Sankha Purvaka Nama Gananati Bhi, the Goswamis in Vrindavan, they used to chant keeping a numerical strength. They were all liberated persons. Still, for teaching us an example, they also used to chant keeping a numerical strength. Haridas Thakur, he used to chant Hare Krishna mantra keeping a numerical strength 300,000 times. 300,000 times. So our prescription is only 25,000. Not 100,000. So it is not very difficult. It takes at most 2 hours. We can find out of 24 hours, 2 hours. We can find out time. So if we actually follow the rules and regulations and chant Hare Krishna mantra, then these symptoms will come. Netre jalam gatra roheshu harsha. When this comes, then you know that I am coming to perfection. And if it is not coming, then it is to be understood the heart is still frame. Still frame, so it is still only, stone. The stone, if we keep our heart stone, a still frame, then it cannot be melted. These symptoms mean heart is melting or changing. What?
You should note with profit that in the first 3 chapters of the 2nd canto, a gradual process of development of devotional service is being presented. In the first chapter, the first step in devotional service for God consciousness by the process of hearing and chanting has been stressed, and a gross conception of the personality of Godhead in His universal form for the beginners is recommended. By such a gross conception of God through the material manifestations of His energy, one is enabled to spiritualize the mind and the senses, and gradually concentrate the mind upon Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, who is present as the Supersoul in every heart and everywhere, in every atom of the material universe. The system of Pancha Upasana, recommending 5 mental attitudes for the common man, is also enacted for this purpose, namely gradual development, worship of the superior, and that may be in the form of fire, electricity, the sun, the mass of living being, Lord Shiva, and at last the impersonal Supersoul, the partial representation of Lord Vishnu. They are all nicely described in the 2nd chapter, but in the 3rd chapter further development is prescribed after one has actually reached the stage of Vishnu worship or pure devotional service, and the mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested herein in relation to the change of heart. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, his eternal constitutional position. So with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment, by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. Vidhi bhakti, or regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hands, the legs, as already mentioned herein before, is now stressed herein in relation to the mind, which is the impetus of all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered as steel-framed, for it is not melted even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties, and if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and are the preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, love of Godhead. If the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to offenses only. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha. In the beginning of chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been very careful about evading the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and standing of the hair on end. The bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely stuntedness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, failing in voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments, both in steady and accelerating manifestations. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur has very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. Not only Vishwanatha Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees, prakrita sahajiyas, but the pseudo-symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo-devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. A person addicted to smoking, drinking, or illegitimate sex with women, even though decorated with the signs of a devotee, cannot have all the above-mentioned ecstatic symptoms. But it is seen that sometimes they are willfully imitated, and for this reason Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. They are even affected sometimes by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms, yet if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization. When Lord Chaitanya met Srila Ramananda Rai of Kavor on the bank of Godavari, the Lord developed all these symptoms, but because of the presence of some non-devotee Brahmins who were attendants of the Rai, the Lord suppressed all these symptoms. So sometimes they are not visible even in the body of the first-class devotee for certain circumstantial reasons. Therefore real steady bhava is definitely displayed in the matter of cessation of material desires, kshanti, utilization of every moment in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, of the artha kalatvam, eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly, namagane sadaruchi, attraction for living in the land of the Lord, pritistad vasati stale, complete detachment from material happiness, virakti, and pridelessness, manashunyata. One who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the bhava stage, as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator or mundane devotee. The whole process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord, and the result of such realization is reflected in the cessation of all material desires, etc., as mentioned above. The neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, are invariably envious, so much so that they invent their own ways and means of devotional regulations without following the acharyas. As such, even if they make a show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. Therefore the show of tears in the eyes, trembling, perspiration, or unconsciousness, etc., are all condemned. They can, however, get into touch with a pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise they shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit for any treatment. A complete progressive march on the return path home, back to Godhead, will depend on the instructions of the revealed scriptures directed by a realized devotee.
So, this positive progress will be possible if we follow the instruction of the Vedas. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore said, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatriki Vidhin Bina Vaikantiki Harer Bhakti Utpata eva kalpate. Shruti means Vedas, Shastras. Shruti is Smriti, and Smriti means books which follows the Vedic principle. Vedas, suppose you write one book or anything, if it is just according to the Vedic conclusion, then it is called Smriti. By remembering the Vedic conclusion, you cannot go beyond the Vedic conclusion. Then it is a useless writing. Vedic conclusion must be there. The guide must be there. On that conclusion, if you write something, that is right. And if you deviate from that conclusion, then it is wrong. So, we want to read authorized, right books, not by imagination. You can write so many nonsense things by imagination, and that is useless. You must remember what is the Vedic conclusion. The Shruti Sriti Pancharatriki Vidhi. Pancharatriki Vidhi, this Archan, temple worship, under the direction of Narada. So if one gives up all these regulative principles and wants to become a devotee, a writer, then Rupa Goswami says, without the conclusive statement of the Vedas, Smritis and Pancharatriki Vidhi, Shruti Sriti Puranadi Pancharatriki Vidhin Bina, without following, Vaikantiki Harer Bhakti, the soul of a devotee. The Vaikantiki Harer Bhakti Utpata eva kalpa. It is simply disturbance. Simply disturbance.